Chinese EV makers are going bankrupt in huge numbers. The Chinese government has poured billions into its EV industry over the last decade, aiming to dominate the global automotive market. But now things have taken a dark turn. Despite a few standout companies, the majority are facing severe financial difficulties. Chinese EV makers are going bankrupt at an alarming rate, raising serious questions about the future of both China's and the world's EV industry. This wave of bankruptcies signals a grim reality. The electric vehicle dream is quickly turning into a financial nightmare. Stay tuned as we delve into the collapse of China's EV market and its global repercussions. How it started. The Chinese government decided to go full throttle with electric cars, creating an explosion of startups. Initially, things seemed promising with over 500 registered EV companies, all riding the wave of government subsidies. But as we suspected, that couldn't last. Within just a few years, that number plummeted to around 90. Even then, the market was oversaturated, leading to a wave of bankruptcies. In the last few months alone, 4 EV companies and hundreds of dealers have gone bankrupt. Take Neutron, for example. They decided to refund all customers and exit the market completely. Then there's Letton, which was once ahead of Tesla in sales back in 2015 and 2016, but now finds itself defunct. Perhaps the most shocking was the recent bankruptcy of Evergrande New Energy Auto, an EV division of one of the world's largest conglomerates. Despite investing billions, they lost a staggering $17 million on every vehicle sold. The case of WM Motor. So let's dive into one recent case. WM Motor. Once considered one of China's most promising EV makers, backed by major players like Baidu and Tencent, WM Motor raised over $5.3 billion. Yet despite this immense financial support, the company couldn't secure its position in China's hyper-competitive EV market. The pressure to deliver cutting-edge technology at rock-bottom prices, combined with the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and a fierce price war, proved to be too much. WM Motor couldn't cover its losses, which totaled $1.2 billion. Talks with Qishan Auto Holdings are now in limbo following their bankruptcy filing. WM Motor is attempting to restructure and attract new investors, but its future remains uncertain. Why is all this happening? Well, one of the biggest reasons is the competitiveness of the industry, the rate of competition in the Chinese industry. The Chinese EV market's extreme competitiveness is causing turmoil even for the big players. NIO, a leading EV company with over 11,000 employees, is struggling. In the second quarter of last year, they sold only 8,000 units, far below expectations. Despite millions invested in factory robotics and advanced technologies like self-driving systems and augmented reality, their sales remain low. To compensate, they've tried optimizing production, but that's not enough. NIO reported losses of $35,000 per EV sold in that quarter alone. Desperate moves followed, including a capital infusion from Abu Dhabi for a 7% stake and a significant financial support from the local government of Hefei. Amidst these challenges, NIO's founder and CEO, William Li, even faced backlash from fans at a customer gala dinner. Another example is that of Li Auto, a manufacturer known for producing high-end, high-tech electric crossovers. This company is now under threat from a new startup, Ito. Ito has released a new model, the M7, which boasts nearly identical features to Li Auto's S7, but is available at a significantly lower price. In such a cutthroat environment where startups slash prices to carve out market share, it's evident that every company is bleeding money. While aggressive pricing strategies might seem like a shortcut to success, the reality is that these startups are far from safe. Aside from those backed by the state, these companies are selling relatively small numbers of vehicles, clearly indicating that their business models are unsustainable. Many of them are bound to collapse sooner or later. Practically speaking, only those startups that are backed by major companies have any real chance of survival. Take Zeekr, for instance, a brand established by the major company Geely. This startup has the potential to break into the international market, which is probably the only way to escape the brutal domestic price war. Zeekr has a two-pronged strategy, offering luxury EVs in Asia and Europe while deploying robo-taxis in North America. This diversified approach might give it a fighting chance in the otherwise unforgivable market. Now, let's turn our attention back to Evergrande New Energy Vehicle Group. It's fair to call this company a champion of failure. Not too long ago, Evergrande was one of the highest valued car companies in the world, with a market value surpassing that of Ford Motor Company. Many experts were once predicting a bright future for it as one of Tesla's biggest global rivals. However, a few years later, the company ended its journey with a sales record of only 1,300 electric vehicles and a staggering loss of nearly $24 billion. This translates to a mind-boggling $17 million lost on every vehicle sold, enough to seal its fate and shut its doors for good. Despite the lofty valuation it got from experts, the company has collapsed spectacularly, emblematic of the broader crisis in the Chinese EV sector. The aggressive push to flood the market with EV startups backed by billions in government subsidies created a bubble that is now bursting. These companies are unable to compete sustainably, leading to a cascade of bankruptcies. The market is simply too competitive, with every company slashing prices to stay afloat. And the result? Everyone loses money. Supply chain challenges. Another critical issue contributing to the wave of bankruptcies sweeping the Chinese electric vehicle market is the supply chain challenges exacerbated by the global chip shortage. This shortage, felt by automakers worldwide, has sent shockwaves through the industry, disrupting production schedules and driving up costs. Chinese EV manufacturers, already grappling with financial instability, found themselves particularly vulnerable to these disruptions. As chip supplies dwindled, Chinese EV makers faced significant setbacks in their production timelines, further straining their already precarious cash flow. With production delays and increased costs, these companies found themselves in a tight spot, struggling to keep up with demand while hemorrhaging funds. To make matters worse, the intense price wars instigated by Tesla only added fuel to the fire. As Tesla slashed prices in response to decreased demand following the expiration of China's EV subsidies, other EV manufacturers were forced to follow suit, further squeezing their profit margins and exacerbating their financial woes. In this challenging environment, Chinese EV makers found themselves caught in a perfect storm of supply chain disruptions, increased costs, and intense competition. And for many, these challenges proved insurmountable, leading to bankruptcy and business closure. The result: these turbulent times spelled disaster for small players in the Chinese automotive industry. As the pressure from the price war intensifies and the constant need for technological advancement persists, many more EV companies are bound to close their doors. It's a natural order where big fish devour small fish, and China is experiencing this firsthand. A handful of companies now dominate around 80% of total EV sales, leaving little room for small players to survive. Leading the pack is BYD, a company whose sales numbers measure in the millions. Meanwhile, at least a third of the 90 EV makers in China sell no more than 2,000 EVs annually. Experts predict that at least 20 more companies will file for bankruptcy shortly, with most either closing their doors or being acquired by larger players. In these turbulent times, survival hinges on production costs and international presence. Companies like BYD and Tesla have the capacity for a long-term price war, with low production costs and a willingness to sacrifice profitability for volume. Others like Geely may not boast impressive sales records in China, but have a strong foothold in international markets. However, even these companies face challenges in the domestic market, where modest consumer spending and fierce competition kill off local players. These bankruptcies and financial struggles highlight the inherent problems with the EV industry, especially in China. The market is oversaturated, competition is brutal, and the costs of innovation are astronomical. Subsidies can only prop up these companies for so long before the harsh realities of the market set in. Companies like Evergrande, New Energy Auto, Airway, and Neutron have already shuttered their factories. Even state-owned enterprises aren't immune. The FAW Group filed for bankruptcy last year. This wave of insolvency is a testament to the unsustainable nature of the EV market in China. It's becoming clear that the dream of a seamless transition to electric vehicles is more of a nightmare, filled with financial pitfalls and broken promises. The supposed future of transportation is looking increasingly like a sinking ship, and it's taking down countless companies and investors with it. It's turning into a graveyard for companies that can't keep up with the relentless competition. The pressure to innovate while keeping prices low is a recipe for financial disaster. And as we see more companies folding, it becomes increasingly clear that the EV dream is more of a financial nightmare than anything at all. The notion that electric vehicles are the answer to our transportation needs is proving to be a hollow promise, with the industry's instability leaving a trail of bankruptcies in its wake. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this.